Shutters have been fixed so they can close over objects that they used to be able to, like windows. That's probably the most primary example. I'm sure there's a few others. You can now pull certain objects like crates and lockers much faster. Uh, this is really nice, A, for the cargo techs who actually have to drag crates as basically their primary job function. You can push them rather fast, like you can kind of like slingshot them around where it looks a little weird because of it, but I'd rather them actually be able to be pushed rather than dragging them like they weigh 10 billion pounds. Which, to be fair, they probably are fairly heavy, but it's just better for everyone involved to make it so it's not actually painful to move these things. Dragging objects in space has also been made more convenient. Before, if I would have done this, you would stop dead in place. So now if you try to drag something off of a grid, you actually will yank it with you, and the object will still get pulled towards you. And due to the extra weight, you still kind of can fling yourself off grills like so, but it's nowhere near as extreme as it was, and it just feels overall better to move objects through space. Higher tier missions now have extra dangerous modifiers, such as high temperature as an example. Higher tier missions can now reward more than just 3 things. So for example, this extreme mission can actually reward 4. Dungeon generation was changed, so now it's no longer just rooms connected to rooms. There are now things like hallways, making these areas less predictable. Overall, they actually look more like buildings that would exist. Yeah, they lack a little bit of decoration, but either way, it's still a lot better looking than just perfectly preset rooms attached. Also, there's a Rooney. And yeah, it just looks better, and it also makes the dungeons larger without just being filled to the brim with extra loot. So there's rooms you can actually like kite to fight mobs in. Because fighting mobs in tiny rooms like this was not very easy, but fighting a mob in a hallway is actually a lot more manageable. If you are handcuffed to a chair, you can no longer unbuckle yourself. You can't unbuckle while cuffed. You must break out of the cuffs, meaning that as an officer, if you handcuff somebody and put them in their bed, they can't just run out the door immediately. Which also means that if you're having somebody who's not being compliant, you can zip tie them and tie them to the bed and then just walk away. You don't have to worry about them running out. Grills have received an HP buff. Before, just 1 or 2 heavy swings would have destroyed them, but now the grills will often outlast a window themselves, and breaking through a grill actually takes a bit of effort. They're not insanely tanky by any means, but they actually take a hit now from melee weapons, where before they basically just disappeared. You can now link explosive pens up to like a remote signal or a button, so it will explode when you trigger it. So like if you find a random pen, you can set it up to explode later, or you can, if you find like a PDA or something, you could always take the pen out and put the explosive pen in it, and most people, or practically no one, will even think that they're going to randomly explode at any moment. You can no longer use vomit to infinitely reproduce chemicals. Vomit only transfers about 10% of the units of stuff inside of you, so there's no way you can mop up what's inside of you and basically duplicate chems. Juicing power cells no longer gives Licoxide. It now gives zinc instead, and to craft Licoxide, you need to do a longer recipe, meaning you can no longer make one of the best reagents in the game with 1 battery. The Atmos Hardsuit and Fire Suit have both received additional tweaks. So now the Atmos Hardsuit itself does 60% heat, and the helmet is down to 40%, which it used to be 80. The bigger tweak, though, is the Atmos Fire Suit. The Atmos Fire Suit is 85% heat on the chest piece, and the helmet is an additional 60. However, the helmet doesn't protect from any blunt or slash or pierce. It is purely to resist heat. Another part of the change is that the fire suit is no longer spacefaring. You can see I am taking pressure damage. So it has lost a pretty big part of its original benefit. Artifacts have received some more tweaks. They typically are more dangerous now when they activate. Well, I can't say spawning a flute is very dangerous. Well, there's one of the new effects that basically just flashbang me. They also do things like where if they activate potassium, they spill a lot of potassium, or they'll spawn a lot of bananas, not just 1 banana. There's more examples, but I'll leave that for you to figure out as a scientist. Crushers now leech HP, meaning that if you Hit an enemy with the right-click function, you'll heal 10 HP. So for example, I have taken 10 blunt. If I wield the Crusher and spawn in something like a Space Carp, if I hit it with the right-click function and melee it, I have killed it. It did bite me, but the damage I have taken is lower than when I started. As you can see, I did heal the blunt damage. Hamlet and Hamsters, it's hard to keep them in one place, have received new sprites. They looked visually distinct from each other, and the sprite is in general more detailed. And one thing you could do now is Hamlet can actually take hats and ties and glasses, so you can really spruce up Hamlet's drip game. The immovable rod has been added as a random event that can spawn.
Attention.
High velocity unidentified object is on collision course with the station. Impact imminent. The immovable rod deletes all entities pretty much in a straight line. As you can see, the damage path it took was through this specific area. It doesn't eat floor tiles, so it's not completely unfixable, but it causes a massive amount of damage. The emergency shuttle rod was added to the game. It is Marathon Station's new emergency shuttle. It features a small Atmos compartment, a small engineering compartment, a security compartment with a holding cell, or holding area more of, a medical area, a fully stocked bar, and a mini bridge that has a fire axe, which is dangerous, but it is a very long rectangle, and that's probably why it's named the rod, and it is a very stock shuttle and has ample room for bombings and carp explosions. Glue has received some tweaks, and it is now... Glue will now last longer. It is 10 seconds that an item would be glued to your hand. If you haven't seen how glue works, for example, this is a glued pin. I put it in my hand. I can't drop it. I can't throw it. Now both of my hands are effectively stuck with what they have. You can't let go of it, which means you also can't put it in your backpack, can't put it in your pocket. They are just stuck in your hand. And you can also drink the glue. You'll get the muted debuff on the side, and it'll say, you can't speak right now, and you can't scream. You start getting this wavy effect as well. Anyways, that is all I will cover for now. It was a pretty busy week, and I guess it was a good week for me to take off, because this is all new to me. I want you to thank all of our maintainers and contributors for keeping the game up to date and full of content and fixed. Just because I covered it doesn't mean it's not important. All the usual stuff. Most of you have heard all this by now. I'll scroll through the changelog so you can see things I might have not covered yourself. And if you just can't get in-game or on the Discord to check, this is still helpful. Thank you for watching.